Hello, it's Nikki. Welcome to a brand new week. Here we are, off we go. It's Monday, and I have something rather special for you today. It's a bumper episode. I am going to break it down into 3 parts because if you've listened for a while, you will know I'm not just about sharing the information. I want you to implement, to play, to experiment, to ponder, to consider. So I'm going to be sharing the first third today. I went into a fractions mode then. First third. I'm actually explaining to my 5-year-old at the moment about time, and it's really weird. It's one of those things where you have to explain it to somebody else and then you're suddenly questioning everything. But no, I am okay. I am 39. I can tell the time and I can explain it. Anyway, let's get into today's episode. It goes without saying, right? I have it as well, as I'm sure you do with your personal brand. I ummed about making this, not for as long as I ummed last week, but I really considered, should I be talking about growth at this time? Is this really useful? And it's those sort of typical masculine phrases, isn't it? Like growth, accelerate, move out of your comfort zone, power up. And you know what? Growth, for me, is way more incremental. It's much slower, much more enunciated, and sometimes it's those little tiny shifts where, I don't know, something would have bothered me in the past and then it happens again, and it's only kind of a couple of weeks later that I go, I wasn't even bothered about that. That I've shifted that, I've healed that, I've moved on from that. And it's really interesting, especially at this time in terms of growth. So believe me when I share from this place that growth is not necessarily about those typical online marketing strategies like this is the year that you're going to become a 7-figure business owner. Like, great if you want to do that, brilliant. But I'm talking about, I guess, in terms of growth, is like the time that you actually have to work on your business or the stuff that you're doing, getting to a place of growth where you just work with the clients that you like, where you're just in spaces where you feel really good, where you only put stuff on social media that you go, oh, this is a belter, this is a great article, oh, this really feels like me, I've found my voice. So when we're talking about that growth, I'm not coming at it from a point of like, you're going to have to find another 20 hours per week to work on this. It's just not the case. So you will know in terms of your own circumstances, maybe what you have space for, or perhaps where you want to give your attention to. And that is absolutely fine. And that's what I want from you, to be able just to do the bits and bobs you can and to bring this awareness. So this is going to be for you if you want to grow in uncertain times without burning out. So I've mentioned this a few episodes back. I am 40 this year, and I always thought that this would be the year that everything would go ding, 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 and all just fall into place. I mean, perhaps this may not happen by November, where I'm suddenly like, oh my goodness, I've got everything I've ever wanted. But I do have a growth plan. I will be really honest about this. I do want to do some really great things this year. And yes, they might be slightly different things to perhaps what I'd planned. I mean, I think abroad travel might be off for the time being, but I saw what I was able to do last year. And for some people looking in, they might be like, all right, Nikki, that's not a particularly impressive goal, or it's not all jazzy. It's not something I would share on social media. But there were shifts that I made last year that were life-changing for me. And I'm looking forward to doing more of that small and steady stuff. It's also going to be for you if you're happy to make progress imperfectly. Social media is a wonderful thing, but when they show people working at their desks with everything beautifully photographed and the plant is in the right position and people are uninterrupted and everything's color coordinated and all of that, that might not be your reality right now. You might be pulling together little bits of time here, there and everywhere, getting up early, going to bed late, perhaps feeling a bit stretched in all kinds of ways. So I want to say that this space is going to be perfect for you if you just want to make progress anyway, and that you're willing, I guess, to give yourself the permission that you will start to reveal what it is that you're working towards slowly but surely. So quite often I talk about with my clients their personal brand in terms of some kind of art sculpture. So there's this moment where it starts as a block of clay and you're not quite sure what it is and where it's going to go and what it's all about. But slowly but surely the form starts to reveal itself. And as it gets bolder and brighter and steps into what it's going to be, people can start to see it from different angles, and you can, and looking at it in different perspectives. So that's what I want you to do just today, to be in this moment, to trust that the next step is waiting for you. It's that moment, I think I've shared about it on the podcast, I'm sure. Several years ago, I went to Go Ape. Have you been? What did you think? I thought it would be, this is all pre-kids by the way, I thought it would be this little like tame experience. A couple of rope swings, a little zip line at the end, maybe climbing one thing. No, it took 3.5 hours and it was epic. And the next day I ached, seriously, like I'd been in the army for a year. It was insane and it really challenged me. It really pushed me out of my comfort zone. I hadn't done anything like that for a long time at that time, and I'm saying like I do it all the time now, far from it, but certainly at that time I wasn't really exercising that much and I was like, oh gosh, this feels a bit hectic. And trusting that the next thing would reveal itself, like when you like cling on to a zip wire, zip rope, whatever you call them, and you let go and you go, right, I'm just going to hope that the ground at the bottom is going to protect me as I skid into it. So this workshop is really going to be great for you if you're willing, even if it's like 2%, to trust that the next step is waiting for you. Okay, so I'm going to be giving 2 examples in this kind of bumper workshop of when I've really seen growth in my own life. And this is mainly for a storytelling point of view, to bring some analogies to the table to make this really relatable. So the 2 examples that I have, and there's been different growth in different times, but these really stick out to me. The first one was when I went to drama school, and I moved to London in 2000, and I was at drama school until 2003. And the second one is last year. Last year, I signed up to work with a coach for a year, and I'll go into that much more, I'm sure. But I really feel like 2020 was a year of revelation, a year of connecting the dots and making so much sense of lots of things. Of course, it brought up some madness as well. I mean, I realized what else was going on in the world as well, but it was a real sign of growth. And I think that's an important point, actually, before we start, is that growth is not this glorious, uplifting moment all of the time. Growth can be quite ugly. It can be ugly cries. It can be self-doubt. It can be getting halfway there and go, I don't want to do it anymore. Don't make me. Oh gosh, no, this is not going to work. So when I'm saying growth, it doesn't mean to say that I got to skip all that, I don't know how to do any of this. I absolutely did. And they go hand in hand. So when I moved to drama school, and I had this revelation the other day, that I went to one of the most prestigious drama trainings in the world. And actually, I didn't think about that too much at the time, because that would have been too much pressure. Like, oh gosh, I've got to make every second count, and I've got to do everything perfectly and correct, and make sure that I'm falling into line and doing all of those sort of stuff. But I said to Matt the other day when we were having a conversation, I was like, wow, we had some really great training that really set us up. We didn't go to drama school together. We met when I was about 25, but he went to a very great drama school in London as well. And it was that realization of what that meant at the time. So you had to go through quite a rigorous audition process, which in itself felt huge. It meant like booking out time and coming on the train. I think I came down with my mum. I was going around lots and lots of the drama schools and a couple of universities as well when it was that time of deciding. And it was an all day, all singing, all dancing, all acting extravaganza where you were looked at and you were analysed, and they were seeing all parts of your personality and seeing what that was going to look like. And afterwards, I learned that you had a 1 in 20 chance of getting into this drama school, and there were 32 places available. There were 32 women and 32 men. So the fact that I got in was great at the time. I just couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, I've got to do this, especially because the piece that I chose, you have to do 2 pieces often with these things. The piece that I chose, the kind of the modern piece, the contemporary piece, as they say, was a monologue that I knew really well. I can't even remember what I did, but it was probably some scally teenager, because that's what I was at the time. Not scally, but, you know, a teenager. And I was able to kind of show that sort of emotional side and the pace and the timing. And then I had to do a Shakespeare piece as well. And I had never done any Shakespeare training at all. Like, we'd done it in English GCSE, but I hadn't revisited it. I'd never had any lessons. I didn't do any of those kind of LAMDA things. So I honestly watched Felicity. Who is the woman I'm thinking of? The woman from The Good Life. Felicity, I can't remember what her surname is. It's just the thing. I watched a video of her doing a speech, and I kind of learnt it from her. I learnt how to pace it. She really, I mean, she was on a video, for goodness sake. She sort of taught me how to do it and how to share it. And I got in. And this was really interesting because also, and now knowing the other 31 people that they picked, it really gave me a sense of it's not just about the kind of fundamentals. And when you're going into growth mode, it's not just about your certificate. It's not just about your skills. It's not just about what you can offer people. It's a crazy package of who you are as a person, how much you want it, your mindset, your resilience, your strength, your openness, so many things in that way. And then last year, working with a coach and making that commitment, and it was a hefty financial commitment, working with a coach and setting up a direct debit, which would go out of my account every single month without fail for 12 months. And next week, I'm about to pay my final payment. I mean, I'm still inhaling and exhaling around this moment because it was a real sign of growth. It was that, are you going to do this? And it took me back to those drama school days of, are you going to go for this? Because it takes a lot to show up for your big dreams. It takes guts. I always say this. And whenever I'm working with clients one-on-one, sometimes they'll say, oh, I'm finding a lot of resistance to this. A lot of stuff's coming up. Oh, this feels really hard. And sometimes it's a case of it's their body going, why are you trying to go down this path when clearly you should be over here? Sometimes it's an alignment thing, but sometimes it's I'm going to that next level and I'm just kind of shifting around and shuffling my feet and feeling what this is going to look like. So if you're thinking about growth, I'm going to give you some things that may be worth thinking about today. And perhaps you want to take a note of the questions or grab a journal and just work through the process. So number one, you know that you are ready for growth when you can't ignore the niggle any longer, even though you feel all the feels. And that's where I got to last January. So on paper, having had a baby the August before, so what would she be, 5 months old? On paper, it wouldn't seem like a right time because technically I should have been on maternity leave. But, I yet was still, I'm self-employed. So I was thinking about my career and there were opportunities and I was still able to work to a certain extent, or legally, of course. I should just say that. But that moment last December 2019, when I wrote my goals, when I was thinking about what I wanted to do and where I wanted to take these things, because also what I must add at this point is I'd seen other people do things. I'd seen other people being able to make shifts and go for it. And there was a sense in myself where I was like, if they can do it, surely I could do it. Like, we're doing the same thing here. Or, right, okay, well, I'm just going to have to explore this some further. So when I couldn't ignore that niggle any longer, and you might be feeling this right now, despite everything that is going on, you might be like, oh, come on, mate, it's now or never. Or why am I repeating this same pattern and getting myself in this situation? And again, there's absolutely no shame here. Everything I always share is stuff that I've been through myself. And I was having that last January when I was umming and ahhing. And I remember having the call with the coach. I had a discovery call. And my mum sat with Luna. Remember when people used to be able to come into our houses? That was nice, wasn't it? And I thought that I was going to sign up for this like $2,000 course that you could do a 12-month payment plan. And I was like, that's the thing. That's going to be what it is. And so when I got on the call and the coach said to me, it's not going to be that, don't you? You're too advanced for that. You don't need that. What I think you need is this. And as soon as she said it, I thought previously on the call, I was like, she's right. Oh no. Oh gosh, she's right. And this is a different decision now. And this is a different conversation. And this is going to require me to dig deep. So that's what I want to say is when people say on the internet, like, I really invested in myself, and, people never say it was a no-brainer or it just wasn't an option. The figure that I had to pay, I didn't have under the bed. It wasn't available to me, and I certainly couldn't pay for it up front. I had to get myself into a different gear in order to really go for this. And one thing I should say on this niggle you can't ignore any longer is I realised that there have been a lot of times, or a lot of years, months, weeks, days, when I've ignored the niggle, and that doesn't make me happy either. Staying the same, coasting, bobbing along, singing a song, doesn't help me either. And so I knew I had to be brave. Now, I must say this as well. I knew that I was never going to put myself in a situation where we would be homeless, or I would put my family at risk, or any of that sort of stuff. So when we're talking about investing, I'm always talking about you being able to find a way that you're going to be able to make it work for yourself. And I think sometimes it is doing those sums. Like I had to do the sums of like, what do I need to charge, or what do I need to sell in order to make this payment? And not in order just to make the payment, but to make it so it's paying off. So I'm getting a return on investment in that way. So you might be ready for growth, and you might not be able to ignore this niggle any longer. So the exercise around this I would love you to do is, what is that niggle? How is it showing up? If you could give it a character or an outfit or a voice, what is that niggle saying to you? When does it appear? And maybe this is going into like, what are your triggers, or what are those moments in the conversation where you might start, not that you probably would because you're a grown-up person, but you would want to take on that muttering under your breath, like, oh, it's so annoying when that person talks about that. Oh, when does that niggle come? And sometimes it's those big things of like, one thing for me was like, I don't want to be in the same position this time next year. I don't want to do that. And I guess when I'm thinking about 2021 is, I don't want to be in the same position next year as I am this year. And there's some big things that I want to do. So pay attention to that niggle. See when it's coming up. See where it's like shining a light on itself and going, hello, can you look at me, please? Can you see me? Can you see me? This is what you need to do. It's that Chandler Bing thing of like, not touching, can't get mad, not touching, can't get mad. But actually you just want to bop it on the head sometimes. Okay, number 2. As soon as you commit, you will see shifts. I firmly believe this, because when you make a decision in one area of your life, a lot of times it will have a knock-on effect to the other areas in your life. It's like something coming along and mixing up the composition of something. And I found that certainly in terms of, for example, like when I was starting drama school, like the fact that I was doing one thing and I was suddenly in this new world, having worked at Golden Wonder Crisp Factory a mere few weeks before, suddenly I started to change the relationships in my life. So the kind of the bad lads that I had been knocking about with, take that as you will, during the summer when I was at sixth form college, suddenly I was thinking, well, I don't know if I can put myself in that position now because I'm in this environment and I've got to really stay on my case and I've really got to focus and do what I'm supposed to do here. And this was the thing in terms of working with a coach, is that as soon as I signed up for that, shifts began to happen. Suddenly the voices inside me, well, there's only one really, but that inner voice started to give me the answers. Whether that was, you need to stop doing that, or how can you make this better? Like the open questions were starting to reveal itself. I noticed that I structured my time differently. I noticed also that I didn't share as much. I suddenly had to protect my boundaries much more. So as soon as you commit, you will see those shifts and they happen really quickly. And what can happen sometimes is that you want to stay in option 1 where you're like, I don't know which course to have, I don't know what to do, maybe I'll watch another free webinar, maybe I'll do this, maybe I'll listen to a few more podcasts. And do you know what? If you're serious about growth, you have to be willing to put yourself in different environments and see how you thrive, see what goes on for you. And it's really important to do that. Okay, number 3, real life is going to keep on delivering. So I know with growth, it can be tempting to say, I will do that thing when, or when I'm X, Y, and Z, and I have these things in place, then I will know I'm ready for the next step. And I've certainly learnt this the hard way, that no matter what happens, real life will always keep delivering. So on paper, when I was at drama school, you'd think, oh, well, you're here now, so life should be perfect. When in reality, a lot of stuff in my personal life was very tricky at that time. There was a lot of different family dynamics. I was in a relationship that was quite toxic at times. There was a lot going on, a lot. And I somehow had to be able to find the sense, the clarity in what I was doing, even though all this stuff was going on. And when I look back at my growth last year, signing up for something in January and then suddenly being in lockdown in March, I could have easily spiraled into, oh my goodness, what an idiot. Why have I done this? Why have I given myself this huge financial commitment? Oh my goodness, I should have known. I should have done my research. And oh gosh, and I could have easily gone into blame mode. But the thing is, if you stay in that blame mode or that victim mode for too long, it's the opposite. Like I was saying in point one about the niggle, it's like, what does that actually serve? How does that serve me? Like the people, if I suddenly blamed my coach and say, I think you tried to sell me something that I didn't need you could have so easily gone through that. And what I try and do also with these moments of growth, of going, right, okay, so what am I going to do with this? How am I going to make this work for me? And going back to the drama school moment of all the madness behind the scenes was like, I'm going to have to take really good care of myself. I'm going to have to build that into how I operate. I'm going to have to really cultivate strong relationships here and know who my friends are and really just trust in that small handful of people. And likewise, with my coach, it was like, okay, so how am I going to make this work? Am I just going to buy something that I never act on or I never utilize or I never implement? No, I'm going to make sure that I'm really taking in everything possible, experimenting, making it my own, and cracking on regardless. Number 4. As soon as you commit to being in growth mode, possibilities come out of nowhere. Whether it's somebody stopping you in the street that you haven't seen for a while and goes, oh, hi, I would love you to do, are you free? Could you do this, this, and this? Or, as soon as I started drama school and going into that kind of professional zone, suddenly it was like, oh, we're looking for people for this TV series, who's available for that? And suddenly the doors started to creak open because suddenly you were on that platform ready to receive those. You were in the game. And I think that was the case, especially with something like drama, where everybody's mates like, oh yeah, my sister's mum's friend, auntie, is really good at karaoke and she could have been an actor and she could have da-da-da-da-da-da. And I'm not saying that that person is any more or any less talented than me. They're probably more talented. But it is that case of making sure that you're on that platform ready to be able to receive the opportunities. Or create your own platform where you can show people what you're doing. But you're not going to be able to expose yourself in that way if you're being a backseat driver, essentially. If you're like, it's like all those people who write on those awful social media sites like, oh, she did this today, she shouldn't have done that, and it's like, yeah, but what are you doing? And the Brené Brown thing, it's like you have to be in the game, otherwise their comment is irrelevant. Also, it's really important with these possibilities to be aware of being in the present and being in the future. So with my coach, for example, there's lots of people who also work with her who will be further ahead than me, who will have different financial achievements or different personal brand achievements, all kinds of things. And that's been really interesting, that I've had to, in this growth period, really honour where I am right now, even though it can be tempting to go, oh, it's all right for them. Why are they so much further ahead? Is this even any good, what I'm doing? And be in that really stroppy toddler mode. But instead see it as, okay, this is where I am right now. These are my goals. Let's chunk it down. Let's see where I'm at and really fully step into that. But also keep a really sharp eye on the future and really notice what is possible. So what is that for you? Where are you? I guess, what is your next goal? What's your small chunk down goal? What's your goal for February? What's your goal for this future? For this quarter? What's your goal for the future? Be really aware of it, because people might talk about 6-figure years or however they discuss it, but that is broken down. That's broken down into chunks. Number 5. Be willing to explore where you are now and not just be in that state of, I want this, I want that, this is not happening quick enough for me, and being willing to take full responsibility. So this is not going to work for everybody, and it's quite a niche analogy, but one of the first things that we did at drama school was all put our black outfits on. So whenever we did movement or whenever we did dance, we had a uniform, which was, it's traumatizing just thinking about it, a black leotard and black leggings. And the boys wore a unitard, which was an all-in-one number, if you please. Yes, and those outfits did not leave anything to the imagination, let's just say. And you know, you weren't just standing in front of the mirror at your best angle and the most beautiful lighting. You were moving around. You were rolling on the floor. You were rolling with other people on the floor. It was all very COVID unfriendly, that, let's just say that. But there were the amount of times when, before you took on another character, in your black outfit, you would have to stand in front of the mirror and, you know, have that check-in with, like, where am I right now? How am I feeling in my body? What's going on? And that's one of the things that you always do as an actor, you know, really connecting with that present moment. So that's having your feet flat on the floor, seeing what your body's doing, you know, how are you feeling in this moment before you layer the character on. And that was so fascinating to see, because in that drama school moment, not that I was particularly like this, but I could have been in that zone of, I want to be famous, I want to be discovered, I want to be really talented, I want people to love me, I want. And I only knew that those things would start to come once I took full responsibility. Where am I right now? Have I shown up? Am I delivering in class? Am I being a good student? And am I progressing? Instead of being so down far the other way. And that's been interesting in terms of this coaching journey as well, of being willing to really look at where I am now. Yeah. And be very honest with myself and check in. How am I spending my time? Am I in belief that this is possible? Am I supporting myself? Am I taking care of myself? Am I spending time and energy on tasks that are actually going to grow my business, or am I hiding? All of the above, my friends, all of the above. And that was really tough, those first few months. And it was the equivalent of looking at yourself in the mirror, in bad lighting, in a bad outfit, and going, okay, here we are. This is where we are. This is where we are. This is where we are. And there are some great things with that, where sometimes you're like, oh, this is where we are. Okay, this is where we are. I can do more of this because I've done it before. And then sometimes there's this is where we are. And I'm going to have to work through this thing and work out where it's come from and why it keeps showing up and why this obstacle is defining me when actually it's nothing to do with me. And taking a deep breath through that. So being willing to explore where you are right now, because that's where you're starting from, right? And this is the stuff that is kind of real in this moment. But people will always say, never let your current circumstances show you what is possible in terms of your future circumstances. Because there have been times like within a year, I would say like January last year to January this year, there's so many parts of me, I feel like a different person. Honestly, like how I spend my day, how I feel about myself, how I feel about the world. And there's been so much that's gone on. But that came from taking full responsibility, from being willing to do the work. Number 6, and this is the last point for today, because already I've been talking for 35 minutes and I'm going to leave you with this. Once you're in the room, you might want to leave the room. This happens with hot yoga for me. Like the first time I ever did hot yoga, it was with my friend Jess. She's actually been a guest on the podcast. Episode 37, I believe. She's wonderful. She helped my son come into the world. She's just an amazing friend to me. She's wonderful. And to her, hopefully. So the first time I did hot yoga with Jess, I went in and I practiced yoga for, many years on and off. I wasn't great, but, I was there. I was doing it. And I went in and I was like, I'm a ginger person. I'm very, I'm just not very good with heat. And I've never done this before. What happens if I don't like it? And And Jess sat me down and she came over to my mat. I was one of the first people in because I'm an eager beaver. And she knelt on my mat and she said to me, you don't need to do anything. But if you can stay in the room, great. Whether that's in child's pose or lying on your back or sitting cross-legged and just breathing, see if you can stay in the room. And of course that heat came on. I was like, I don't want to stay in the room. This is too much. Oh my goodness, I've got to run. And that's what growth has been like for me. And it hasn't necessarily been as dramatic as that sometimes. But there's definitely been times over this last year, especially with the coaching situation, where I've wanted to hide because I sometimes haven't done my part of it. Or there's been times where let's get into it because we're honest. I was like, I don't need to learn this. I know this. Like, this is beyond me. I know I am beyond it. I know this already. If I come back to this, like, stay in the room. Stay in the room, Raby. Listen to what's going on. Because, Raby, you haven't got it all. Otherwise you wouldn't be here. And there's always growth. There's always stuff going on. And then the questions come, right? And what if you gave yourself permission to have a beginner's mind? So that's been interesting. So my question is, where are you not staying in the room? Where are you distracting yourself or running away or being chaotic or starting something and then not finishing it or not charging for the thing that you know should actually make you money or not talking about it or not saying that you're ready? Like, what is all that stuff going on? And all of the examples I've just given you, I have done all of. So again, remember, we're not doing this work for the sake of making ourselves feel rubbish, but it's bringing the stuff to the surface. Oh, okay, that's what it is. Okay, right. Okay, that's right. And it's looking at stuff like Tetris, like those shapes coming down in different formations and going, okay, what's the best thing that I can do with that object in this situation? And sometimes you just have to put it to the side, don't you? Sometimes it's not going to give you a line, but it is going to be up your sleeve for later down in the game. So I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to have a big cup of tea. Thank you so much for being with me today. You're not going to want to miss what day are we today? We're Monday today. The next one will be on Wednesday, and the final part of this on Friday. If you're listening to this today, Monday, you're going to want to join Jam and Plan this week on Wednesday the 27th. This is an all-day event. You can read all the details down below. If you need support in growth, also I should just say, before I'm sure I'll go into it more on Wednesday, one of the striking things is I needed support. And I guess with the drama school training, yes, of course, I could have read every play and studied every TV drama that had ever happened. But I tell you what, it was a very different experience actually going to drama school and doing the thing practically. Likewise, working with a coach. I am really good at self-development and being motivated on one level, and on another, I need somebody who's going to say, I think you can do better than that. Or where are you going to take this next? Or what's missing for you? I love that accountability. I love somebody being able to see what's going on for me as well. So if you're interested in Jam and Plan, please do check it out. Also check out the free masterclasses that are on my homepage. Do have a look at that and see what's happening. And I'm also open for some brand new coaching clients. So come on over and play. Book your free 15-20 minute session with me. We can find out what you want to do, where you want to go this year. And I'm really excited to talk to you. So thank you so much for being with me today. I'm going to send lots of love. Do share this with a pal if it would be useful for them. And I'll see you Wednesday. Lots of love.